Check out this awesome machine right here. This thing just came in. Actually, they had it for a while, but there's this electrical connector that you need, and they were supposed to have that for me. And when I got the machine, and they didn't have it. But they put that on for me today, and they brought the machine back. And so this is basically a hydraulic machine. It's hydraulically ran off of that on the auxiliary supply. It goes into that piston, and it goes into that piston, and it spins that motor right there, that hydraulic motor. So you can see it's not a huge wheel. It's huge enough to do some damage, I'll tell you. I was cutting stumps with this thing, and it's pretty ferocious. You don't get a great view because that one hydraulic piston, but that mesh right there is great because it's not a PVC, it's not a panel of that plastic stuff that gets scratched up. So your view on that's always going to be the same. You run it off of these controls here. You set it down on that platform there, and that stabilizes it so you don't put too much wear on the loader arms and stuff. And it goes far side to side. So just to give you a sense of comparison, that's a 3-foot bucket right there. And this thing, as you can see, would easily cover a 3-foot area. This door actually opens really far. It opens to there. It's a joy to run, I'll say that. You just gotta have that strong left thumb, because when you're up here, you're basically, you got one hand here operating these with the thumb, or you can have like one of each of these fingers, but they're not as precise. And then if you want to use your left hand, you got to lean forward, and you can use your left thumb if your right thumb is tired, because there's really no, when your auxiliary is forward like that, it's on there because your foot's on the lever, and you can't really get to these with your left hand so good. You can lean forward, but they're set up for your right hand. So that's how that works, and you just hit that pedal down there. And that keeps this auxiliary, and I'm sure it would annihilate those teeth if you were to run this thing in reverse. You go forwards with the auxiliary. It's nice having a machine that's oriented in front of me when I'm stump grinding, because stump grinders can be, I don't know, they just hurt your neck when you turn your head sideways for them. It does have a very nice wide path, and it goes, because it has a smaller wheel, you can't really dig as deep with it. So when people say they want to go 6 inches, you're basically maxing out depth when you go to 6 inches on this machine. is a 13-inch stump. I don't know if I'll be able to capture all the footage, but I'll give you a time. Okay, it is 7:36 right now. I started this at 7:27. But just to give you an idea, this is a 13-inch stump of walnut, which is intrinsically soft wood most of the time. Occasionally there will be cases when it's not, but it's pretty soft wood. So this was an ideal situation. And just remember, if you go up another foot, you're not just doubling the amount of time. That took 10 minutes, but first of all, I didn't go full 6 inches depth for the whole thing, and also, well, it's below grade. It's probably 4 inches across the full depth, and I didn't have to chase any roots or anything like that, so it was a true 13 inches. I didn't have to grind like 20 inches worth of soil and roots and then like 13 inches of stump. It was 13 inches of stump and there was no roots and there was nothing sticking out. There was no mound or anything like that. This spot right here, I kind of didn't get full depth because that was still tall right there and it was hitting the shroud. So this shroud right here kind of stops you from getting in above your head. So you know, your grinding area is going to be this a little bit to the front and then across. So you're not using all this cutting wheel exposed because that could set you up for different situations that would be bad. You wouldn't want anything to ever be able to hit that nut or kind of grind into that at all. If you kind of weren't being careful and you didn't pay attention, stuff like that could happen. So they have it set up this way on purpose. If you're looking to buy this stump grinder and you need to do like production stump grinding, I say you either need a bigger Bobcat with a bigger stump grinder attached or you need a dedicated stump grinder. If you're comparing this to a 25 horsepower Vermeer, like a 252 or whatever their version is now that's 25 horsepower, I think it compares. I mean, so Vermeer has like a rabbit and a turtle for hydraulic drive, so it also speeds up your travel when you're driving through the yard. And then when you're doing your sweeping, you can fast sweep, but it's really not helping you. When you're running the Vermeer, you go to turtle and you do the slow sweep, unless you're just doing a minute cut, and there's no reason why you'd be doing that. It's better to do a little bit more of a cut. Depth of cut is going to be probably the same as the other 25 horse, like I said. The cool thing about this is that when you get jammed up, you don't have to hear that screeching, howling sound that you hear from a Vermeer. I mean, you won't know it stopped unless you're paying attention. You have to, you know, if you're going by feel and you're sweeping and all of a sudden you don't see chips flying, and sometimes you're buried, you're deep in the dirt and the chips and you can't see anything flying already, and then you're just sweeping that thing. It's pushed down into the dirt so much that it can't start spinning again, and you won't know that. But if you pay attention, you'll know, and you don't have that horrific noise coming from it when it gets jammed up like on the Vermeer. So I thought that was cool, but I know it's not the selling point. Really, the real question here is, can it perform? And in my opinion, it can. The footage you saw a few minutes ago was of a bigger stump. That stump, I think it was a full 2 feet, 2.5 maybe, possibly more. And then it had a mound outside of that, and so I had to go to deeper depths to try to get all that root extension area all done. So it took a little while. It took an hour and a half or maybe more. So you're talking about real machine hours here when you have a bigger stump. But if you're not doing production stump grinding, I just use it for the odd stump here and there, but people constantly want me to do stump grinding, and it's like, I really think that with the stump grinding that comes my way, I could make my payments on this machine just with the stump grinding proceeds alone. That's money I wouldn't have made otherwise. So, and then you look at the price of stump grinders, and now in a dedicated stump grinder could be $20-something thousand. If you're paying $5,000 for a stump grinder, chances are it's either super beat up or it's a tow behind. The tow behind, remember, you don't have access to backyards. The whole thing about this machine is that you can get into backyards, etc., etc. Same with the MT55 and the 85. And both of them, as far as I'm concerned, are the same for this application because they have the same motor. You know, you're setting it down on the ground. As long as you can carry the weight of the machine, and you can, by the way, you can run this. And that's the same, that's Kubota 25 horse or 24.8 or whatever it is. But I'm a big proponent of this. I think it's great. I think if you have the mini skid and you're cutting trees, you might as well, unless you already have your 25 horsepower grinder. The cool thing is, obviously, this is a separate implement from your Bobcat. So, well, what am I trying to say? Well, it's compact. You know, it's a tight package. If I was trying to decide between having two separate motors and having one motor, I'd go with the one motor because you're simplifying, you're reducing the number of things that could go wrong. You're increasing the workload on that one motor, but that's a decision a business owner has to make. For me, it makes a lot of sense to have this unit. Now, a couple things I don't like about it. One is that let's say you want to lower the cutting wheel down so that when you set it down, it's set as a platform, as a tripod, because basically the weight of that cutting head is heavy enough to tilt this. I don't know if you saw me when I was hooking it up, but basically it tips forward, and then when you want to hook it up, one side is always slightly more to one side than the other. It's very hard to hook up, and it doesn't set flat on the ground unless that wheel is exactly the right distance down. Now, the problem is that you can't lower those carbides if you're on the pavement or on the asphalt or whatever, or gravel, because the wheel has to be turning for you to lower and raise. So I can't go over there and power the auxiliary and just lower without spinning and find my perfect height to set it down like a tripod sort of pattern. So let me show you. This right here is a very narrow platform. It's not wide enough to support that head, so the whole platform will tilt forward. You know, it's got that secondary sort of door flap thing. Let me show you. This flap, like I assume, like if you close this all the way over and then you fix that flap to where it's here, you're gonna set a little bit flatter, but you're still not setting down on that cutting edge unless you're on the dirt and you set it first. So I could set this on the dirt right now, and that would be the only way that I could make sure that that blade is down at the perfect depth to set down in a paved area or on someone's grass. Well, yeah, I mean, you'd tear a hole in someone's grass with that. So you have to basically find your level for it before you drive away from your stump, which probably isn't a big deal. I just hadn't thought of it. So as far as the hookup goes, I'm sure you saw me hook this up, but it's got this simple electrical connector that just twists like that. And it doesn't just go on any way, so it's got a rectangular pattern to it. So you kind of line up that rectangular pattern, and then you line up your twist knob here, and you push and twist at the same time. And these auxiliary hookups on the Bobcat are really, really awesome and cool and helpful, by the way. Well, that's warm. Wow. I wonder how much heat this thing actually puts out. That's pretty warm too, but yeah, that's what you expect when a hydraulic system is powering something continuously through flow. You know, the side to side and the up and down is very slow on this machine, but it performs at a nice depth of cut. One cool thing is that you can set this down, so you're down on this platform on the ground. So as you're grinding, you're not transferring vibration through the loader arms, which is great. It's really good for the machine that you can do that. And you know, you're on the dirt and the chips already, so if you want to advance and that thing is down on the ground, you can just drive forward and it'll drag, but it'll also advance you. So all you do is just sort of raise that a little bit, and then you advance, and it holds you in place and keeps you from rolling back most of the time. Otherwise, you have to tilt downwards a little bit, and then of course that could jam into the stump, so you have to raise that before you do it. But it's got good usability for sure. I wish that it wasn't so complicated to set it flat. But I mean, it speaks for itself. It ate up that stump in record time. So in conclusion, I do like this and I do recommend it as long as you're not stump grinding in like production stump grinding. So good luck out there, YouTube, and good decisions.